Our second lead this evening. On May 11th, ladies and gentlemen, this year, the Supreme Court delivered a historic verdict which changed the political landscape of our national capital. The Constitution Bench, headed by the Chief Justice of India, had ruled that the elected government in Delhi will have all powers except to control land, public order, and police. It basically meant that the ruling government had been empowered to decide on postings and transfers of secretaries, something which Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party had been fighting for. They said, how can you govern a state or a city without having the power to transfer and appoint babus who will run the city, who will run the administration? They had a point. But their joy from the Supreme Court order was short-lived. Just a week on, the centre introduced an ordinance which gave powers to the LG of Delhi to decide on matters referred to him by the government. Essentially, the LG was given the power to make the appointments and the transfers. The back and forth continued between the two sides, which is the central government and the Aam Aadmi Party government. And the matter once again reached the Supreme Court, which has posted the matter after the conclusion of the Article 370 hearing. But now the battle is in Parliament, where the government introduced the Delhi Services Bill on Tuesday. Despite strong objections by the opposition, the issue came up for discussion today in the Lok Sabha, where Home Minister Amit Shah put up a brave defense of the bill. The Home Minister said that the Aam Aadmi Party is opposing the bill in order to hide their misdeeds when it comes to Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and his bungalow's revamp. Amit Shah then went on to mention how former Prime Minister Pandit Nehru and also Balasaheb Ambedkar and Sardar Patel all were against the idea of granting statehood to Delhi. Listen in to what he said.
दिल्ली के सतर्कता विभाग को सबसे पहले क्यों निशाना बना गया? अगर सेवा के अधिकार मिल गए, चलो मैं एक मिनट के लिए मान लेता हूं, मिल गए, तो सबसे पहले कोई क्या करेगा? रोड एंड बिल्डिंग की चिंता करेगा, पीने की पानी की चिंता करेगा, साफ सफाई की चिंता करेगा, आरोग्य की चिंता करेगा। इन्होंने विजिलेंस की चिंता करी, बोलो। प्रायोरिटी तो देखिए साहब इनके साथी की, विजिलेंस की चिंता करी। भला विजिलेंस की चिंता क्यों करी? इससे दिल्ली की जनता का क्या भला होने वाले था? विजिलेंस विभाग को इसलिए निशाना बना गया, माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, कि इसमें बहुत सारी संवेदनशील फाइलें बंद पड़ी थी। कौन सी फाइलें थी? आबकारी घोटाले के संबंधित फाइल, शराब की आबकारी घोटाले की फाइल, मुख्यमंत्री के नए बंगले के निर्माण पर अवैध रूप से हुए खर्चे के संबंधित फाइल, जिसमें स्वयं मुख्यमंत्री फंसते हैं। ये सारी फाइलों के लिए माननीय अध्यक्ष जी सतर्कता विभाग को निशाना बना दिया। और ये हमारे दल, मैं तो नहीं मानते सारे दल इसका समर्थन करते होंगे ऐसे काम के, मगर गठबंधन की एक मजबूरी है, इसलिए सारे दल ये सतर्कता विभाग के साथ आज आप पार्टी के साथ जुड़ गए माननीय अध्यक्ष जी।
Now, as soon as the Delhi Services Bill was passed in the Lok Sabha, Delhi Chief Minister tweeted betrayal. He said that this bill will enslave the people of Delhi. He also said, at least his party is claiming, that what the Home Minister said was nothing but nonsense. He's even saying, in fact, Arvind Kejriwal has tweeted to say that the people of Delhi have been backstabbed by Prime Minister Modi, and he says that is because in 2014, before the elections and before he became Prime Minister Modi had actually said that if he becomes Prime Minister, Delhi will be given full statehood.
अरे अटल जी को याद करो, जो दिल्ली को पूर्ण राज्य बनाने की वकालत जिंदगी भर करते रहे। अपना घोषणा पत्र पढ़ो अमित शाह जी, उसमें लिखा हुआ है साफ साफ, दिल्ली को पूर्ण राज्य बनाएंगे। किसने? भाजपाइयों ने लिखा था। एक राज्य सरकार के खिलाफ आप गैर संवैधानिक बिल पास कर रहे हैं। सुप्रीम कोर्ट में दूर दूर तक ये बिल कहीं टिकेगा नहीं, रुकेगा नहीं।
after hours of discussion today, the bill was passed in the Lok Sabha just a short while ago. It had to, given the fact that the BJP has a brute majority in the Lok Sabha. Immediately, as I said, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in another tweet slammed the BJP for stabbing the people of Delhi. Now, the fight remains in the Rajya Sabha. Is it really a fight? Because when it comes to the number game, well, still the numbers, if you ask me, are in the favor of the Rajya Sabha, of the BJP-led NDA. And it is not just their numbers. The fact also is that you have parties like the BJD, you have parties like the BRS, you also have parties like the TDP who are now coming out and saying that they are going to support the government in the Rajya Sabha, which means what? Which means that the government will have it easy as far as the Delhi Services Bill is concerned. The government will have it easy as far as passing the bill in the Rajya Sabha is concerned as well. And as all of that was happening, you just saw papers being thrown, on the floor of the House. That was an Aam Aadmi Party MP, by the way, doing it in the Rajya Sabha. He has now been suspended for the rest of the session. Let me go straight across to Harish Khuranna, who is joining us on the broadcast. He's spokesperson of the BJP. Parvinder Singh Sethi is a political analyst, will be speaking on behalf of the Aam Aadmi Party. As you by now know, ladies and gentlemen, the Aam Aadmi Party doesn't send guests or spokespersons to Mirror now. We have Umesh Sehgal, who's the ex-chief secretary of Delhi, who is joining us as well for a perspective. Parvinder Singh Sethi ji, why is Arvind Kejriwal saying that the people of Delhi have been backstabbed by Prime Minister Modi? That is something that Arvind Kejriwal tweeted as soon as the services bill was approved by the Lok Sabha. Why? Why be that dramatic?
नहीं, देखिए ड्रामेटिक्स की बात नहीं है। जिस लड़ाई के लिए 8 साल कोर्ट के अंदर लड़ाई लड़ी गई ट्रांसफ़र और पोस्टिंग की, और उसको जब कोर्ट बंद होने थे उस दिन शाम को उसका अध्यादेश लाया गया। मैं समझता हूं कि अध्यादेश लाना सरकार का एक पावर है, लेकिन हर बात के अंदर आप अध्यादेश लाएंगे, आप कोर्ट का सम्मान नहीं करते, आप किसी बात का सम्मान नहीं करते। आप इस बात को देखिए, मैं बड़ा हैरान हूं। देश के गृह मंत्री ये कह रहे हैं कि ट्रांसफ़र पोस्टिंग के साथ जो है वो इसलिए लाई जा रही है कहीं वो करप्शन ना लागू छुप जाए। इसका मतलब वो इस बात को कह रहे हैं कि जितने भी ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं वो जिस सरकार के अधीन रहेंगे वो उसके लिए काम करेंगे। इसका मतलब उनकी ईमानदारी के ऊपर एक प्रश्न चिन्ह है। और अगर आप सेंटर सरकार के अधीन रहेंगे तो सेंटर सरकार का काम करेंगे। मैं कहता हूँ ट्रांसफ़र पोस्टिंग्स का अधिकार चाहे स्टेट सरकार को मिले या सेंटर सरकार को मिले, अगर उसके अंदर कोई घपला हुआ है तो उसके अंदर एजेंसियां काम करेंगी और अपनी ईमानदारी से काम करें। अगर आप संवैधानिक संस्थाओं को अपने हिसाब से मोल्ड करके उनको अपने हिसाब से काम कराएंगे तो लड़ाई इसी बात की है। मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि सारा विपक्ष क्यों इकट्ठा हुआ है, क्योंकि दिल्ली सरकार को काम नहीं करने दिया जा रहा और जो देश का लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है वो चरमरा गया है। और देश की सरकारें जगह जगह पर आप सीबीआई ईडी का इस्तेमाल करके उनको जनता के मैंडेट को ख़त्म करके वहाँ की सरकारें गिराई जा रही हैं। देश के जो खिलाड़ी पूरे देश के अंदर पूरे संसार के अंदर देश का नाम रोशन करते हैं, उनकी एफआईआर दर्ज करने के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना पड़ता है। जो अडानी के लिए एक कमेटी बनानी थी, जेपीसी नहीं बनाई गई, उसके लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना पड़ता है। ट्रांसफ़र पोस्टिंग के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना पड़ता है। जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये कहता है कि जिस स्टेट की सरकार उसके अधिकारी उसके अंडर नहीं होंगे तो वो काम किस प्रकार कर पाएंगे। आप दिल्ली की सरकार को काम करने नहीं दे रहे थे, इसलिए उन्होंने ये मांग रखी। उन्होंने ये पूर्ण राज्य का दर्जा नहीं मांगा, उन्होंने ये कहा कि ट्रांसफ़र पोस्टिंग का अधिकार दिल्ली सरकार के पास हो, क्योंकि वो सेंटर सरकार के कहने पर दिल्ली सरकार को काम नहीं करने दे रहे। जी
ठीक है, हरीश खुराना जी, प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड टू व्हाट परमिंदर सेठी जी इज सेइंग। पॉइंट इज, भाई, if a government has to run, the people running the government need some power in their hands. How can you disempower them, not leave them with any power and expect them to run the state of Delhi? The fact is, the Union Territory of Delhi, the fact is, देखिए हरीश खुराना जी, बीजेपी के लिए नहीं वोट किया था दिल्ली के लोगों ने, आम आदमी पार्टी के लिए वोट किया था। ये आप बदला तो नहीं ले रहे हैं?
Priya, first of all, when I was listening to Parvinder ji, he was continuously saying, "Us state ka, is state ka, is state ka." We should understand, and your viewers also should understand what is the actual status of Delhi is. Delhi is a union territory. We should understand that. And this has not been given by BJP. It's been given by the Congress in 1993. Under 239 AA, it is clearly stated that the administrator of Delhi is Lieutenant Governor. It is clearly stated that. आपने जब चुनाव लड़ा दिल्ली का 2015 में, you should have read 239 AA and AB. What is clearly saying it that it is a union territory with special powers. उस special powers के अंदर भी the services was not there in 1993 also. I'm clearly quoting and unquoting it. Umesh Sehgal ji is sitting over here. He's a senior bureaucrat and he has served Khurana ji and Shreya Dhoundial ji. He knows Delhi better than all of us. We should understand what is the actual status. So, point is not this. Are we debating for a Poon Rajya or debating for a services bill? We should understand the status. Since 1993, the status is same, which is right now in 2023 also. The point is why we bring this bill to clarify it. Ki bhaiya, this is the status. Bar you are doing unconstitutional work. You are not doing what the constitution says. It has to be cleared, and this has been mandated by the court also. Court has clearly said if the area is a grey area, the parliament should decide what the actual status is. So we have cleared that.
So,
but usko घुमाना कि हम तो पूर्ण राज्य की बात कर रहे हैं.
Khurana,
Baba, you are debating today, or you are doing a bill.
No, पूर्ण राज्य की तो नहीं. देखिए, to be fair to the Aam Aadmi Party, they have not asked for full statehood for a very long time. But they are saying just ensure that we have passed to run this government.
Yeah, my only point is
bureaucrats are the ones that run any state or union territory. But if you can't, if a government, elected government, LG is not elected. An elected government in Delhi doesn't have the right to appoint and transfer its babus. How is that fair? How are they expected to run this government or the city, which is our capital, no less?
Shreya, you are a senior journalist. You know everything about Delhi. I understood that. But the thing is, debating about whether the power should be there or not is something one thing. From 1993, the status quo of Delhi is same what is right now in 2023. Kam ho, jada ho, we should debate on that also. But if you say कि हम लोगों ने powers को change कर दिया, हम लोगों ने सब कुछ change कर दिया, it's not true. My point is only this: कमती होगी, बढ़ती होगी, we can debate that. But if you say that कि भैया बाबा हम लोगों ने vendetta politics कर रहे हैं, we're doing a vendetta politics because Aam Aadmi Party is in power. I'm sorry, we have seen a area where 5 years when the central government is in Congress and BJP was in state. My father was a chief minister at that time. We don't have a power to even transfer an MCD commissioner to. My father went to Umesh Sehgal knows it. Umesh Sehgal knows it. My father went to Prime Minister that time and Home Minister Yashwant Chauhan that time to transfer Subhash Verma, to index Subhash Verma in MCD. He knows it. So status is same. Congress government was there. Shreya Dhoundial ji ruled for 15 years. 6 years was Atal ji government. We worked coordinate relationship. Of course, we had some viewpoints differences. But end of the day, we never fight it like anything. We have seen in 8 years, 3 lieutenant governors, Kejriwal government, 3 lieutenant governors, starting from Najeem Jan to Vinay Saxena ji. आपने कोई 6 महीने देखे आराम से कट गए हो. रोज नहीं फाइट. And he's talking about हम तो काम करना चाहते थे. What was the first order they got it? Vigilance का transfer कर दो, vigilance officer का. This was the first order when they got the power.
परविंदर सिंह, ये तो गलत नहीं बोल रहे बीजेपी के स्पोक्सपर्सन. परविंदर सिंह जी, ये तो बिल्कुल गलत नहीं बोल रहे हैं बीजेपी के स्पोक्सपर्सन.
नहीं, देखिए मैं
कि लड़ाई आम आदमी पार्टी की सबसे रहती है.
मैं आपको देखिए
एंड ये कॉन्फ्रंटेशन की पॉलिटिक्स इज द रीजन व्हाई दे हैव मैनेज्ड टू अपसेट द बीजेपी.
नहीं, नो ये सवाल चुनी हुई सरकार का है. अगर चुनी हुई सरकार को, मैं ये समझता हूँ, हरीश खुराना जी मेरे मित्र भी हैं, बड़े भाई हैं, लेकिन मैं उनको ये बता देना चाहता हूँ, जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच है उससे समझदार नहीं है. आप उनकी जजमेंट पढ़िए. उन्होंने कहा कि अगर ये चुनी हुई सरकार के अंडर ये ट्रांसफर पोस्टिंग नहीं होगी तो वो कैसे काम कर पाएंगे. उन्होंने ऐसा नहीं कहा कि यू शुड ब्रिंग द बिल, उन्होंने कहा कि आपके पास पावर है। लेकिन आप अगर हर बात के अंदर आप खुराना जी के टाइम की बात करते हैं, आप शीला दीक्षित के टाइम की बात करते हैं, उस समय विपक्ष के नेताओं का आपस में एक सम्मान होता था। वो एक इस तरह से जो आज का माहौल बना हुआ है देश के अंदर, आप एक दूसरे सरकार को विचारधारा की लड़ाई होती थी, आज विचारधारा की लड़ाई नहीं है। आप जनता के मैंडेट को तो हरा नहीं सकते, दिल्ली में आम आदमी को हरा नहीं सकते, आप उनको काम नहीं करने देना चाहते। आपने टूल बनाया जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं, जो बाबूज हैं, जो हर्डल्स क्रिएट करते हैं, जो सेंट्रल सरकार के कहने पे। इसी की लड़ाई 8 साल सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आम आदमी ने लड़ी। जब वो जीत गए, जब कोर्ट बंद होने वाले थे, तो उसके बाद जब कोर्ट बंद होने के समय आप अध्यादेश लेके आए, आप जवान का सम्मान करते हैं, ना किसान का सम्मान करते हैं, ना आप मजदूर का सम्मान करते हैं, ना सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सम्मान करते हैं, ना आप देश के राष्ट्रपति का सम्मान करते हैं, जिनको आप पार्लियामेंट के उद्घाटन में नहीं बुलाते। अब ये डिक्टेटरशिप की राजनीति जो कर रहे हैं, इसलिए पूरा विपक्ष इकट्ठा हुआ है और पूरे देश के अंदर एक बहुत चिंता का माहौल है कि एक चुनी हुई सरकार, देश की चुनी हुई सरकार एक स्टेट की सरकार को काम करने नहीं दे रही।
one line only.
अच्छा, खुराना जी, quickly, yes, go ahead.
Only one line. परविंदर जी ने इतना बड़ा भाषण दे दिया।
You can.
I'd like to ask one question from Parvinder Sethi जी। 1993 में स्ट्रेचर क्या था दिल्ली का? क्या सर्विस तब भी थी? तब दिल्ली सरकार के पास थी? हाँ या ना? बस एक ही लाइन में आंसर देना। 1993 के अंदर दिल्ली सरकार के पास सर्विस थी? हाँ या ना? बस
मैं पहले बोल चुका हूँ कि जो पहले मैं आपको एक बात और बता देना चाहता हूँ। सर भाई, मैं मेरी बात 10 सेकंड लूंगा। भारतीय जनता पार्टी को खड़ा करने वाले नेताओं में मदन लाल खुराना जी थे, अरुण जेटली जी थे, सुषमा स्वराज थे, एल.के. आडवाणी थे, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी थे, जो अपने विपक्ष के नेताओं का सम्मान करते थे। जो आज की चुनी हुई सरकार है वो जनता से तो हरा नहीं सकती। दिल्ली की सरकार से आप 3 बार हार चुके हैं, दिल्ली में आप 3 बार हार चुके, पंजाब में आप हार गए, हिमाचल में आप हार गए, कर्नाटक में हार गए। आपकी राजनीतिक जमीन सरकती नजर आ रही है। आप घबराए हुए हैं, आप बुखलाए हुए हैं। आपको ये पता है कि 2024 के अंदर
But Mr. Khurana, one question I also have for you. I have to go to Mr. Umesh Sehgal, who's listening to the both of you. But the fact is, who is the one who promised full statehood from Delhi? I'm just asking you. Prime Minister Modi, before becoming the Prime Minister, L.K. Advani had even introduced a bill. Remember, Atal Bihari ji was keen as well. So, आपकी पार्टी को भी full statehood की, आपकी मांग थी.
No. Shreya, please don't raise the post right now. We can debate on whether Delhi should have a full statehood or yes or no. It's about not today's topic is. Today's topic
For
is.
that full statehood, you're not even letting them control services.
Boss, 93 में भी यही था ना? 93 में भी यही था.
अच्छा, ठीक है.
आप ये मत बोलो ना कि 93 में नहीं था.
अच्छा, okay. So that is, I get the logic of what you're saying. Can I just bring in Umesh Sehgal as well? Because as you said, he knows Delhi and Delhi's administration better than all of us put together. Mr. Sehgal, the Delhi Services Bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha. It will be passed in the Rajya Sabha as well. Maybe not as easily, but it will be passed in the Rajya Sabha as well. Can you help me understand what this means for the people of Delhi and what this means for any government that is elected in Delhi? My question is, why have a elected government in Delhi at all if DLG is the boss?
Function as per the constitutional requirements and as per the statutory requirements. And it is the duty of the civil servants to ensure that the constitution and the statutes are followed. Now, an elected government may or may not do this. So that is why an independent civil service has been created, and in All India services have been created, which are really recruited by the Union Public Service Commission, and the appointing authority is the President. Now, chief secretaries in every state, whether it's a full state or a union territory, are appointed out of the All India service officers. Similarly, the DG Police is also an IPS officer. Similarly, the Indian Forest Service, again, it is an All India service. So now, these are all exceptions to the federation. Now, let's come to Delhi. In Delhi, services actually has 3 aspects. One aspect is the appointment, which in the USA the president makes. Second aspect is the vigilance, and third aspect is transfers and postings. As far as the appointments are concerned, they have to be made by the President because the Union Public Services Commission is there, and the Union Public Service Commission makes recommendations to the President of India and not to the Lieutenant Governor or to the Chief Minister of Delhi. As far as the vigilance is concerned, it has been totally taken over by the Central Vigilance Commission, who appoints the Chief Vigilance Officer, who then is overall in charge of the vigilance matters in the state. Here, the Chief Vigilance Commissioner is not appointed by the, it is appointed by the central government. Again, he is so these two aspects of services, whether 239A or not, are not concerned with the Delhi Assembly. Now, the important aspect is transfers and postings. Now, are transfers and postings that critical that you cannot run the government if you don't have the powers, the full powers of transfer and postings? I think you can run the government. You should be able to run the government, provided you have a say in these matters. Now, in the new bill, they say that there is a civil services authority. The civil services authority should have been there in the very beginning. In fact, if I remember right, in 2013, the Supreme Court had decided that every state should have a civil services authority. Now you are setting up a civil services authority. In my view, it was wrong to put the Chief Minister as the chairperson of the civil services authority. It should be totally civil servants. Their recommendation can then go to the Chief Minister, who can have a view to state it at that time, or it can go to the cabinet. But to put him in the committee is embarrassing to him, and is more embarrassing to the bureaucrats who are there. How do they oppose anything that the Chief Minister says? It's very, very difficult, because ultimately the Chief Minister writes their confidential reports, and their promotion, their future prospects are all dependent on confidential reports. So the control, as far as transfers and postings, it cannot be converted into a mafia. The transfers and postings will be done because we have seen in 2 states it has happened, and chief ministers are spending time in jail. So transfers and postings, there has to be checks and balances, and checks and balances have to be there on the bureaucrats. Checks and balances have to be there on the politicians. I think this bill has made a mistake by putting the Chief Minister as the head of the Civil Services Authority. He should not have been put. You should have taken a retired person. You could have taken an expert from outside and put him there. And then the recommendation should then have gone to the Chief Minister, who should have had a semi-final or a final stay. But to put him in the committee is very embarrassing for him. I agree with Mr. Kejriwal here, very embarrassing for him. And even more embarrassing for the Chief Secretary and the Home Secretary, who are technically under him, to oppose him. And it is their duty to oppose him if the law, as per their understanding, is the same. Now let's come to Delhi. As soon as the Constitution judgment came of the Supreme Court, you know, it was a 300 or 100-page judgment. You can't expect every bureaucrat to have read the page 1 and understood the judgment also and appreciated it. Within a couple of hours, the minister got active, started abusing the officers, calling them to his office, forcing them to sign papers in his office, putting the fear of God in them, and then to get hold of certain files, make photocopies, or do what you like. I mean, all this was totally wrong. And the Home Minister stated what the files were, and if the files were really all pertaining to vigilance matters against the minister himself or against the government, this matter is very, very serious, and it should be taken note of by the Supreme Court. I'm glad that the central government has taken note of it and come out with the bill which at least gives some protection to the bureaucracy. You can't just throw them to the best people in the country, pass through the civil services exam, they come into the IAS or go into the IPS or go into the Indian Forest Service. These are important people who should be respected. You can't just throw them away. In England, the secretary is called the permanent secretary. The minister is called just a secretary. So there has to be an equation of equality between the two, not master and slave, master and servant. Sorry, the chief secretary is not the servant of the chief minister. He is an equal person in the administration of the state. If the chief minister has a role to play, to lay down policy, the implementation is left to the chief secretary. But what is happening is that the chief minister and the ministers in many states not only interfere with policy, they have a right to make policy, they also interfere with the implementation. They even want to transfer clerks and PNs and patwaris. What is this? This is not good administration, I'm sorry. For good administration, especially for the capital of the country, I think some sort of a via
Okay.
media is necessary, especially when you have people who are fighting with each
All
other.
right. And
this
what is
via media
necessary?
has been brought out in this act. I
Yeah,
welcome
you
it.
can't have a situation where the central government and the state government, Mr. Sehgal, you certainly can't have a situation where the central government and the state government are fighting with each other. Now, I have exactly 20 seconds each, and I'm going to give 10 seconds each to the politicians. But Parvinder Singh Sethi ji, Umesh Sehgal is raising a very important point, and he's raising a very worrying point. The Home Minister of the country has stood in the House and said that once the Supreme Court judgment was out and the services were given to the Aam Aadmi Party government that is ruling Delhi currently, the first department that they targeted was vigilance. Calling in, ensuring that important papers are photocopied, calling in babus, asking them to sign papers, etc. If that is the way an elected government is going to behave with officers, no democracy can allow that.
नहीं आई फुली एग्री जो उन्होंने कहा कि जो आईएएस अफसर्स हैं जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं दे आर द मोस्ट रिस्पेक्टेड सिटीजन्स ऑफ इंडिया और ऑफ एनी कंट्री लेकिन कुछ लोग जो इन्फ्लुएंस में आ जाते हैं सरकारों के और सरकारों के हाथों की कठपुतली बन जाते हैं चाहे अपने पर्सनल बेनिफिट के लिए चाहे फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट के लिए उन चंद लोगों की वजह से ये ट्रांसफ़र पोस्टिंग की लड़ाई 8 साल लड़नी पड़ी जिन्होंने एक चुनी हुई सरकार को वो पॉलिटिशियन के हाथ की कठपुतली बन गए। मैं सभी के बारे में ऐसी बात नहीं कर रहा, चंद लोग हैं, लेकिन अगर वो अपना ईमानदारी से काम करें, ऑनेस्टी से काम करें और जो काम होना चाहिए देश की जनता के लिए चाहे सेंटर, लेकिन हमारे देश का दुर्भाग्य ये है कि यहाँ पे जिस प्रकार देश के गृह मंत्री ने पार्लियामेंट में खड़े होकर कहा कि ये करप्शन को बचाने के लिए ट्रांसफर पोस्टिंग ला रहे हैं, इसका मतलब वो इस बात के ऊपर मोहर लगाते हैं कि जो जिसके इन्फ्लुएंस में चाहे स्टेट सरकार हो चाहे सेंट्रल सरकार हो जिसके अंडर होंगे ब्यूरोक्रेट्स वो उनकी भाषा बोलेंगे। ये देश के लिए बड़ी चिंता का विषय है। ये हमारे जितने भी लॉ रिफॉर्म्स लाने की आवश्यकता है, जो पुलिस रिफॉर्म्स लाने की आवश्यकता है, जो इस तरह की चीजें पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस को कम करने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि जो पॉलिटिशियन तो 5 साल के लिए आता है, जो ब्यूरोक्रेट है
हरीश खुराना, हरीश खुराना, I'll give you the last
देश
word.
को चलाने वाला वो व्यक्ति होता है।
Harish Khuranna, I will give you the last word. 10 seconds.
We should understand Delhi has to be run through what the constitution says. And I think Arvind Kejriwal should understand that. And constitution clearly says it's a union territory, it's not a state. If you're really fond of having so much power, go in some other state and fight an election and become a chief minister of that state. But Delhi is a union territory with some special powers. You should abide should be there. Like Shreya Dhoundial, Khurana ji and Saab Singh Marma ji has done. They have done for a lot of development in Delhi, whether it's Congress, whether it's a BJP. You should understand what the constitution says.
Okay, Harish Khuranna, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Parvinder Singh Sethi, thank you very much. And Umesh Sehgal, thank you very much for your perspective. On that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. Up next is my colleague Nivedana, joining you at the top of 9 with all the day's top stories. Do stay with us.